One of my absolute favorite things about Awesome is the awesome stories. The reason why we're in this is to help people to be healthy, happy, and full of love and light. And I'm so happy that Amanda, you're here to share your story with us. Thank you for being here.
I am Amanda Hobbs-Starenfeld, and I'm going to give a synopsis of my experience here at Ahhsome Relaxation and how it was life-changing for me. About a year ago, I had my second surgery on my ankle. That stemmed from a car accident 10 years ago. We were hit from behind. I think the young man was going about 35 or 40 miles an hour, and I ended up needing a shoulder, neck, and 2 ankle surgeries. And so over the last 10 years, I've battled with that, along with some other health problems that I'll get into. But during that time, I had to have someone come into my home and help me with things like cooking and cleaning and just simply talking. And that person was Grace. And she was in my home during the holidays. And after hearing what had happened to me, including a TBI, she came the next day with some little free visits to her in-laws business, and she says, I really think that this could help you. And I had sort of maybe heard of Ahhsome Relaxation, but not really. And that surprised me because it's really close by Cal Store and Walmart. And she started to tell me a little bit more about it, and I started to do a little bit of research. But what really helped me was being able to come in and use those free passes. And I would bring like my mom or something like that. And first of all, it was super relaxing, and it was just a place where I could go and let go. And they had a bunch of binders that I could study and read about it and whatnot. And but I would have to say, like, the far infrared heating pads and what they call the fish tank, it emits far infrared. I immediately felt relief in my muscles and my joints from my surgery from that. And then I would go and I would report to Grace and tell her, wow, were you right? Like, that was so amazing and awesome. And that's another thing, you get to where you're like saying awesome a lot, and you realize that that's why they named the business Ahhsome Relaxation. And I wanted to know, I was also going to physical therapy, and I would go and do everything there and then come over here. And what was nice too is that if I was in a lot of pain from the physical therapy, I could like come over and get on the far infrared like 3 times a day, and I could visit. And I didn't want to use up all my passes, but I realized, like, okay, I'm going to have to get a membership here. So I went ahead and I did, and I committed to coming every single day and putting in the time because I wanted to see if it would work. And mind you, like, I was doing extensive research. I was going through and I was like, is this all fluff? I want to know if it's real, and looking into like the NASA research, and oh, the military has used some of these therapies and whatnot. And I started to notice a couple of things right off the bat within like the first couple of weeks. So the red light therapy, and I knew about red light therapy, but I didn't have anything like that in my home. I started to notice that my skin, like the collagen, the wrinkles, like, it started to look better. And my hair, I had gotten my hair colored. My sister had just done it. And then suddenly, like, my hair started to grow really rapidly, and it was getting longer. And I had a friend even say, how did your hair get so long? And I said, I think it's from going to Ahhsome and being under this red light therapy. And so I started to notice that. And then I would, of course, totally love to get into the massage chair. And I couldn't do like the chi machine or things like that because of my ankle surgery. But I could, and I had to like take my leg out of the massage chair so that I could have it not pull on my ankle. But I was doing everything that I could, and I was coming over consistently. So again, one of the first things that I started to notice was a lift in my mood and the depression. And of course, like, this is Idaho, and that can happen, like the seasonal depression. But I was also dealing with when you have a TBI, you are more susceptible. And I'd been on some medications for my Crohn's disease. because after the car accident, there had been some things happen, and we had to try some different other immunosuppressive medications, and I could tell that that had affected me. And so getting back in here, I started to feel my personality come back and like dispel the darkness that literally was outside the business. And what was nice too was that I could come whenever I had a minute. So I could, if it was after hours, I could come in and just use my phone to get into the building. And it could be late at night or whatever. And I'd come and do that. And I found like that I was starting to process a lot of things, not just feel relaxed, but you start to, you're able to meditate here. And the music that they play, like I could feel my body letting go of things like the car accident, things associated with my Crohn's disease. And I was able to process that. And so my mind started to feel like it was mending too, not just my ankle. And so after, I want to say probably and I told myself 2 to 3 months, because I had read again about like the Sedona bed, which is a pulsed electromagnetic bed, that um, it might take the mitochondria of the cells a little while to turn over, and it could be up to 3 months. And so I want to also have people understand that, like, you can come here and it'll feel great, but to get some sustained long-term changes, for instance, in my lower back with what's called ankylosing spondylitis, it took about 3 months of me coming, and not just in the morning. I would get to where I could work up to coming in the evenings too. I started to notice that my back was loosening up quite a bit, and I was able to do things. Of course, I was going to physical therapy, and that was part of it. But they were working on my ankle and not necessarily my lower back. So I would be able to get into stretches and do certain things. And I was noticing that I had the energy and strength to like put more effort into what I was doing at physical therapy. So fast forward a few months, I got back walking, and eventually I got back onto my bike. And it seems like I would come here, I would do the therapies in the morning, and I'd get up like at 5 a.m., then be able to go, teach or whatever. And then after school, I would jump on my bike. And I hadn't been on my bike for a while, for about, I want to say 3 years. And I do the recumbent bike at physical therapy and whatnot, but it had been a minute since I'd been on my bike on the roads and stuff. And to fast forward, I can now do like up to 18 miles every other day.
Incredible.
Yeah. And
Truly.
I have to attribute it to the fact that I was coming here and I was putting in all of this effort. And then I'll still get pretty sore from the exercises that I'm doing and lifting weights and whatnot. But I can come over to Ahhsome Relaxation and jump back on and do like the far infrared, and I can heal better. And then the next day, get after it and do another workout. So that's kind of in a nutshell my experience with the car accident. With the Crohn's disease aspect, and I got studying some different things. And this isn't to say, oh, I'm not coming at it like this will heal your Crohn's, but I am part of a support group on Facebook, a couple of different ones for Crohn's disease. And there's a lot of suffering that happens with it. That obviously it's a women's support group because we don't talk about it very often. But to be able to go in and say, hey, I've had this disease for 40 years and I've started doing XYZ, and I've noticed that I'm feeling pain relief from a far infrared heating pad with stones in it that helps emit into the muscles and helps with blood circulation. I'm thinking it can help with this. Have you tried it? This is the brand that they use over at Ahhsome Relaxation. And somebody over in England who's struggling maybe with postpartum depression, had a baby and has a situation and maybe has the Crohn's and similar things that happen with that disease, and then like childbirth, hey, you can do this and it'll help relieve pain and suffering. So that's got me excited too. And I try to talk about this with anybody and everybody that might be having a struggle. And it's not, if it hadn't happened to me, I might not have believed it either. But I was committed to, I'm going to see if that actually works. And I would be a really good test subject because I have all of these things wrong. And even like with a TBI, you get some brain fog. And like I had mentioned, like the depression and whatnot. And that brain fog started to lift after coming here and with physical therapy. So a TBI is a traumatic brain injury. So like a really, really bad concussion. It was a coup contra coup concussion. And so they suggest doing a lot of meditative stuff as well. And coming here, and you will listen to the music and like the birds chirping or whatever on the music, and that'll help calm you down as you're like laying on the pulsed electromagnetic bed. That helped. I think that was one of the main things that helped with it. But then also just getting me in a relaxed state and training your body to relax, and then you go and you push it, but then you have to come back and help it come down to a baseline. And that's where Ahhsome really was great with that too. And then it was really hard to say goodbye to Grace because she was so great. She was in my home and we would be talking and discussing and whatnot. And I knew that she would come here. And then I obviously graduated from needing her help and she didn't have to be in my home anymore. But when I realized that she was here working, I was really excited because I think that she can, she's a really good listener. We would talk about all sorts of things. Not just like my ankle. There was a lot of drama that I talked to her about, and she just became one of my best friends, and I miss saying goodbye to her, and I love that she's here now. She's great. I think that she'll be able to listen to the needs of other customers and find out maybe what's happening with them, and then be able to target it with whatever module here at Ahhsome. So another thing that I would do when I would come over here, and I would maybe do a couple different therapies, and then I would bring my computer and work on my book. I had to do a lot of editing over the winter, and so I would just sit, and I remember like having my little gloves on, sitting up to the they have a little cafe at the front, and so if you're like, you have to make sure that you stay hydrated and that you eat. And I would sit down and I would pound out my book, and I would get into this flow state here because it's so peaceful, and I would just come off of, um, whatever I'd been sitting in or on, and work on my book, and I could concentrate really well. So like if you have to study and like at home, I could do the same thing, but there's always the distractions of something that you need to do, and so I would really just zone in and work on my book.
This has been amazing, Amanda. I'm so grateful that you shared your story, and I hope it inspires so many other people to be willing to make the commitment that you did for their health. And what we've seen is when people really make that commitment and come consistently, that's when literally miracles happen. We're so happy for you and that you've gotten your life back. And thank you, Grace, so much for sharing Ahhsome with Amanda and with others. We appreciate you so much. You really have an authentic joy about you, and you're a great listener. You really care. You're awesome. Thanks. Yeah. Thank you so much.